Buenos Bananas YouTube. This is the Wide Open Prepper coming to you live again, yet pre-recorded all at the same time. I wanted to do a video this evening about the top 5 shit hits the fan without rule of law books to have on your shelves. Actually, this could be the top 5, it could be the top 7. I've got a couple of books here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some of them are great books to have, some of them are okay. And these are my top. And I haven't seen this topic yet, so away we go. In no particular order, this is an antibiotic guide, excuse me. I have antibiotics in prep, but I am not a doctor and I am not a nurse. And as much as I'd like to sit down and learn about which antibiotics to use, you know, I'm probably going to forget, and I just don't have the time in my day, unfortunately. So I found this on YouTube. I thought the book was quite a lot larger in size, but when I got it, it's obviously a pocket-sized reference. But it had some of the best reviews that I could find on Amazon. Again, won't go into too much detail here, but this, I think, is a wise book to have, even if you don't have antibiotics, because you might run across somebody that does. And obviously, this would be useful in a longer term shit hits the fan without rule of law scenario. There's a lot of possibilities that could play out, but I tend to prepare for something longer term, because in that event, I'll be prepared for something short term, as opposed to if I prepare for something short term, then I'm not prepared for the long term. So this is a good choice. Let's see, this is the Prepper's Blueprint by Tess Pennington. And this would be good maybe for someone who hasn't paid a whole lot of attention to the concept of preparedness. If you just don't have the time to educate yourself, think about scenarios. You know, like myself, I've had a prepper mind for about 5 years now, so this is more of kind of a beginner's step-by-step guide. There are some good tips and tricks in it that I found useful. But, you know, for example, in the food preservation section, they talk about canning and freezing and drying and dehydrating, and they're just kind of basic overviews of each. They also give you items for preps to purchase regarding specific things. So for a pandemic, they have a list of things you might want to have. Let's see here. Surviving with carbohydrates is one of the chapters. How cold affects us. There's a chapter on hypothermia, composting, and some basic rainwater catchment system setups. So just a nice broad overview. Cool book. I haven't gone through the whole thing. I have gone through a lot of it, and it's a good book. This is probably the same type of book. I say probably because I think I started reading it, and I don't know that I like the author's style. He was a little black and white for me, no pun intended. But this is the Handbook to Practical Disaster Preparedness. It seemed that this author was in a little bit of denial on some issues. It seemed that he had a kind of an attitude of most preppers are a little paranoid, and that he was somehow a little more on the level, and that I don't know. that was my take on it. But a lot of good information, and that's all I have to say about that book. This is one of the first books I bought when I started thinking about having reading material, because obviously if the grid goes down, we're not going to have access to the internet, which is where we all get our information now. So I knew that having proper reading materials was key, and this is a book, the first book that I ever purchased, and it's simply a book about knots. Now, I am no Boy Scout, nor am I a knot expert, and this is a great book. Gives you step-by-step instructions. Even the triple bowline is in here. So, don't know that you would ever need any other resource for tying knots than the Everything Knots book. This is the Nursing Drug Handbook. I believe the later versions have changed quite a bit. I believe, regarding my research on this particular book, that the 2011 was the last version that they did that had some features in the book that the new ones don't, that people have complained about. So again, it's just a drug handbook, very similar to the antibiotic book, but much more comprehensive and going beyond antibiotics. Probably important to have in a longer term grid down, shit hits the fan situation. Now we come to what I would consider probably the best book of the lot. This book is called The Encyclopedia of Country Living. There's been numerous editions. I had never heard of this book until I became a prepper. And the word I would use to describe this book is comprehensive. Lots of information. I won't even get into it. I highly recommend this book for anyone who is planning for long-term scenarios. Just as an example, let me see if I can pull this out here and find what I was looking for. I'll just briefly read the contents to give you an idea what's in the book. Homesteading, choosing and buying your land. Government resources, which of course would not be available to us after shit hits the fan, but possibly before. Different books and magazines that would discuss these topics. Let's see here. Storage in case of emergency, that includes vehicles, supplies, medical, food, water, emergency lighting. Living simply. Let's see here. Mothering when it gets very cold. Clothing children and changing babies. Baby bottles. Bathing under primitive conditions. Keeping the house warm. Stove. Newspaper uses. The bathroom. House insulating. Giving birth by yourself. How to care for your dead on page 39. Backwoods housekeeping. Country clothing. Quilting. Candle making. Money management. Health matters. Poisonous bites. And just kind of a really cool myriad of topics that you don't typically see. Great book. Tons of information. #1 recommended book in my list, The Encyclopedia of Country Living. This is for all you bug out boneheads out there. How about a road atlas? This might be a little large, but you could pick where you're going to go and tear out the page. And then I picked this book up. This is This is for you survivalists out there, the John Lofty Wiseman SAS Survival Handbook. I would be a poor example of anybody doing this type of primitive work. You know, this is if you're just out in the wilderness and eating bugs. This is a very comprehensive book. It's a very heavy, information-filled piece of work that goes into a lot of different topics for those that are out in the wild. So, you know, don't know that I'll be bugging out, but who knows? So, there you have it. There's my list of top 8 books for Shit Hits the Fan without rule of law. Thanks for watching. Wanted to mention something off to the side. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with Glenn Beck, the radio talk show host turned television talk show host turned he has his own website and internet channel now called The Blaze. And I like Glenn Beck. I don't watch him all the time. I think he's a good American. He's a good patriot. But the reason I bring him up is he's doing something that's pretty cool that I wanted to put on everybody's radar in case you haven't heard. As you guys know, ISIS is destroying, or not destroying the Middle East, but destroying things and people in the Middle East. They are on a rampage right now, and they are out for Christians. And there are Christians being persecuted all over the Middle East. And I mean, you know, when the Muslims are fleeing out of there, you can imagine how bad the Christians have it. But they started what's called the Nazarene Fund, and they've raised like $8 million. And what they're doing is they have people on the ground in the Middle East that are finding Christian families that are trapped over there. And they are going to fly them into Mexico, and they're going to walk them across the border into our country. And again, you know, this is not something that our U.S. government is involved with. This is a private calling that Glenn has taken on with another guy. I think he's a pastor. I forget his name. But, you know, I tell you, man, that's a cause that I can get behind and that I'm going to get behind. You know, the way Glenn Beck puts it is, you know, they're going to tell me I can't walk across into this country with these families. He says, I'll tell you something. I know a bridge that connects the United States with Mexico. So, you know, obviously we've got wide open borders down there. There's people flooding through anyway. Why not do something good here and bring some of these Christian families through? I think he said it costs, I want to say 20 grand a family, or $25,000 to bring a family over to Mexico and get them out of the Middle East. And they've raised over $8 million so far. So if you're interested in that, I think it's called the Nazarene Fund. You can check out Glenn Beck's website. But I think that's I think we need to stand up for the atrocities in this world, and this would be a good way to do it. Anyhow, this is Wide Open Prepper. Thanks for checking out this video. Hope you guys are doing great. God bless you, and God bless the USA.